Hello, this is Mr. Molo for lesson 7-7, multiplying polynomials. You'll see the start of this lesson is going to be review, where we're just multiplying the numbers, adding the exponents, but then we'll get into something called FOIL. Okay, so like I said, this part we did in section 2. So if I have 6y to the third times 3y to the fifth, remember I'm just going to multiply those numbers. So that's where my 18 comes from. And then y to the third and y to the fifth is going to make y to the eighth. Same thing here. So if I'm multiplying, 3 times 9 is going to make 27. M times m squared is going to make m cubed. And then n times n, or n squared times n is going to make n to the third. Alright, same thing here. Multiplying my numbers, so 1/4 times 1 times a negative 12 is going to make a negative 3. S squared, s is going to make s to the fourth. And then t squared and t and another t squared is going to make t to the fifth. So that should be review from before. Doesn't matter if there's 3 things here, it needs to get distributed to all of them. Doesn't matter if there's an exponent on, or a variable on the outside, it still needs to get distributed to all of them. Nothing is going to change. Okay, what will change is this thing called FOIL. So FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, last. Okay, it's just our way of multiplying. And really we don't need to do it in that order. That's just suggested, and that's how I'll probably do it in class, but it just keeps it a lot easier if we just do that. So when it's talking about the first term, so in this problem you have the quantity x plus 3 times the quantity x plus 2. So that means the first term in each of these is going to get multiplied. So x and x is the first term in those parentheses. And it means the outer term. So my 2 outer terms out of those parentheses is going to be an x and a 2, which is going to give me a 2x. Then my inner terms, a 2 on the inside, 3 and x is going to give me a 3x. And then my last term, so the second term in both sets of parentheses, 3 and 2 is going to give me a 6. And most of the time when it's just variable and a number, you should be able to combine the 2 middle terms so that the outer terms and the inner terms should be able to be combined if it's just the regular x plus a number and x plus a number. You won't be able to do that if it's more complicated, but most of the time it'll just be a simple problem like this. Alright, so here's another example of it. So s plus 4, or the quantity s plus 4 times the quantity s minus 2. So the first thing I should do is multiply my first term, so s, and that's where that s squared comes from. Then multiply my outer terms, s and a negative 2 gives me negative 2s. Then my inner terms, 4 times s is going to give me 4s. And then 4 times a negative 2 is going to give me a negative 8. And then I can combine my negative 4s and my positive, or my negative 2s and my positive 4s to give me a positive 2s. And I'm done. Remember, I can't simplify that anymore. Even though they're both s's, they have different exponents, so they can't get simplified anymore. When you see it like this, where it says x minus 4 squared, that just means the same thing. So it's x minus 4 times the quantity x minus 4. So then you would just do it like we just did those problems before, where you're going to do x times x, and then x times a negative 4, and then do the inside term, negative 4 times x, negative 4 times negative 4. Alright, and if you have a problem like this that has 3 terms, it doesn't matter. You're still going to do it the same way where you're distributing everything to itself. It's just not called foiling because there's 3 terms, but it would still do the same thing. So I would need x times x squared, x times 4x, and x times a negative 6. So I would end up with x to the third power plus 4x squared minus a 6x. Okay, so that's what happens when I distribute the x. And then I would need to distribute the negative 5 to everything as well. So then I have negative 5 times x squared. Oops, I forgot my squared there. negative 5 times x squared, which is going to give you a negative 5 x squared. Then negative 5 times the 4x, which is going to give me a negative 20x. Then negative 5 times the negative 6, which is going to give me a positive 30. Alright, and I wrote this like this on purpose so that I have everything lined up. So there's no other x to the thirds, so I know that that's just going to be x to the third. I have 4x squared minus a 5x squared, which is going to give me a negative 1x squared. I have a negative 6x minus a 20x, which is going to give me a negative 26x. And then I just have that plus 30 at the end. Okay, so I wrote that where all the things I could simplify were underneath each other. Alright, and then the last problem we'll do is a 3 set. So again, not really called FOILing, but pretty much done the same way. So I have x to the third, or x plus 3 times x plus 3 times x plus 3. Okay, if I were you, I would do this in 2 separate problems. So I'm just going to put my last x to the 3 up here. Okay, so I would simplify this first. So once I simplify this, I'm going to end up with x squared plus 6x plus 9. And then I would bring back this equation. Whoops. And multiply that just like we did in the last problem. So if you try to do all 3 at one time, it's going to get pretty complicated. The easier way is just to split it up into 2 kind of separate problems and multiply them out like that.